Greetings, my friends. For today's video, I'm about to reviewing the 2023 action film that was released back on March this year, and it's my favorite action film in that franchise called John Wick Chapter 4. John Wick franchise is one of the few action movie franchises that keeps getting better and better with their new sequels that even make a competition with Mission Impossible franchise with Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt. Now this year, John Wick Chapter 4 and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 are my new favorite action film this year, and if you're thinking, which one is better? On my personal preference, I think John Wick 4 is a better action film today than Dead Reckoning Part 1 because it has a personal storytelling. While there are some amazing action sequences, it got amazing cinematography. There's a bird's eye view and a car chase that is better than Mission Impossible 7. And lastly, the character development with each storytelling that goes on. The longest John Wick film, but it is a satisfying one from start to finish. I really like that the way that John Wick is fighting for survival, it must end the high table, and the villain itself is Marquis de Gramont. I love the actor so much because it brings the charismatic performance playing de Gramont, whilst also there's amazing cast like Ian McShane as Winston, Lance Reddick as Sharon, rest in peace to that dude, and new addition, Donnie Yen as Kane is a great casting in my opinion, whilst adding the great storytelling with each characters. That's what makes this movie so good. So let's rate this movie for John Wick Chapter 4. Alright, so for John Wick Chapter 4, I'm giving the action 5 stars, okay? How can you make a John Wick film without so many great action sequences? That's why I'm on board. The action sequences are incredibly well choreographed and executed, and they're always exciting and suspenseful. The film features a wide variety of action set pieces, from gun battles to hand-to-hand combat to car chases. The action is also very realistic, and it never feels over the top or ridiculous. The film did not shy away from showing the violence of the action because all 4 John Wick films are rated R, but it never felt very gratuitous. The film kept me on the edge of my seat throughout, and I was always eager to see what will happen next. Also, can we talk about the amazing cinematography when it comes to the fight scenes, like the bird's eye view with Dragon's Breath shotgun sequence, the horse chase scene in the opening, the car chase in Rome when John drifting his car taking down against a lot of assassins, and the stair scene. I love the cinematography, plus the action, perfection. Comedy of the movie, I'm giving it 3 stars. There are a few moments of humor in the film, and they are mostly brief and situational. It made me chuckle like John Wick is used a nunchuck during the Osaka Continental sequence, and some of the slapstick action scenes like the dog, and yeah. I love that they bring back the pencil scene when Kane take on against a one strong-ass bodyguard. It makes the audience very hyped. Story of the movie, I'm giving it 4 stars. The film's plot is effective, and it does a good job of keeping the audience engaged. The film follows when John Wick, as he seeks revenge on High Table, the organization of assassins that has put a price on his head, and finding peace and freedom whilst fighting against a lot of assassins going after him. This film has full of twists and turns, and it never feels predictable. The characters were well developed in this movie, not only for John Wick, not only for Winston, and not only for Sharon, but also new characters. Bowery King, Kane, Akira, Kira, Koji, and the bounty hunter named himself Nobody. They are really well developed, and you can understand their characters. They are also well rounded and interesting. Also, the world building when it comes to the plot were really engaging. It kept me interested from beginning to end, and I was always eager to see what will happen next. And also the action was exciting, whilst the action sequences were well choreographed and exciting, and really add the addition for the storytelling they built on this movie. That's why I really like it. Whilst it may be the longest John Wick film, but there are a lot of well-developed characters and well-written story that never feels very bored. Suspense of the film, I'm giving it 5 stars. The film is full of nail-biting moments, and it always keeps you guessing what will happen next. Chad Stahelski is a master of building suspense, and he does a great job of keeping the audience on the edge of your seats. Like, the film's atmosphere is incredibly tense, Set in a world of assassins, and the atmosphere is always dark and foreboding. The action sequences are incredibly suspenseful. Like, you always knew John Wick is about to survive with each hardest situations, the fight scenes. He always survived that. And also, the plot is full of twists and turns. It's always unpredictable, and it always keeps you guessing what will happen next. Not only that, for John Wick, in addition of new characters, you may worry about them will end up dying or what will happen to them, or heck, how the story is gonna end. And lastly, the pacing, I'm giving it 4 stars. The longest John Wick film, clocking at 2 hours and 49 minutes, but it never feels slow or excessive. It moves at a brisk pace, full of action sequences, but it also takes the time to develop the characters and the story. That's why I'm always love this film so much, because it never once feels like 2 hours and 49 minutes. It flies by, it's perfectly paced. For casual fans in the John Wick universe, I'm giving it S. For cinephiles, I'm giving it S for a satisfying conclusion to our favorite boogeyman. And critically, it's the highest rated John Wick film of all time. I'm giving it S. John Wick Chapter 4 is a worthy conclusion to the franchise so far. The action is even more spectacular than in previous films, so I would say John Wick Trilogy, with some truly jaw-dropping sequences. The story is also more complex and nuanced, with Wick forced to grapple with his own mortality and the consequences of his actions. Keanu Reeves gives another stellar performance as Wick, and the supporting cast is also excellent. The film's ending is both satisfying and ambiguous, leaving the door open for future sequels. However, even if there are no more John Wick films, as a lot of people said, then Chapter 4 stands on its own as a great action movie. This film has the right action, right music, right direction, right storytelling. They have a lot of rights in this film. Even though there are a few cons, like the filming might be very long for a lot of people, we might criticize that a bit. But in my opinion, or a lot of John Wick fans, it's perfectly paced. Come on, how can you send the hate of this film? And overall, it is a great action movie that is sure to please fans of the franchise. It is also a good entry point for those who are new to the series. I highly recommend check it out. I love the way they explore the themes of mortality and redemption. Like John Wick, he deserves some peace and freedom. And in my opinion, it's the best John Wick film of all time. I'm giving it 10 over 10, a satisfying conclusion that deserves to get a Sonic 1000 fan guaranteed.